Hello YouTube. Right, so I'm not a teardown expert by any means. I don't really do this kind of thing. I'm also not a Lego expert. I have a couple of kits, I've dabbled, but there are people who obviously will do far better breakdown videos of the actual kits than this. What I wanted to do today, a few people have asked me who are fellow Nintendo fans, how realistic is the Lego NES kit compared to a real NES, Nintendo Entertainment System? So I thought what would be fun rather than just say, oh yeah, it's really good, it's pretty accurate, is I'd actually do a rough teardown of the Lego console and compare it to the actual NES as it was. This is my original from when I was a kid in the 80s. Plenty of fun times being had playing Super Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, that kind of thing with my brother and my dad. As you can see, not a technical video. I'm not going to go into the system and the chips and all chipset and all that kind of thing. That's just not what I do. This is a fun teardown. So let's get started anyway. I'm going to just start with measurements. So as you can see, looking top down, and the Lego NES is smaller than the original counterpart. However, it is built pretty much to scale. Now, things may look a little bit wobbly. You'll notice I've got some screws here. That's because I wanted to get a head start and take the casing off this one. So if we get our tape measure, and you can see there the original NES is about 10 inches wide, or 26 centimeters roughly, and the new Lego NES is about 8¼ inches, so that's 21 centimeters. And length, so the Lego NES coming in at about 7 inches there, about 17.5 centimeters, and the original NES at just under 8 inches or 20 centimeters. And height wise, I have to be careful doing this because I've started taking them apart. As you can see, we've got a few. Oh no, revealed the secrets from the controller already. Compared with the width of the NES, there's a bit of a gap in the casing just where I started taking the screws out, so it's not clamped down firmly. So it is a fair bit smaller, but everything is within context. Now, what you probably noticed already, still got the buttons on the controller here. So where the cross pad is, and compare that to the NES cross pad as it is. Now they're actually the same size. So obviously Lego have used original parts to try and get it as close as possible without custom parts. But you can see the A and B button there are quite significantly larger. What they have managed to do though is faithfully recreate the select start, the markings, all of that kind of thing. And these are actually quite close in comparison. So if we see the cross pad, for example, that's an inch cross in Lego pieces, and it's actually just under an inch cross on the original controller there. So to actually start with the teardown, so we start with the controller, and the first thing you'll notice, this is the same through the console and the controller build itself. Nintendo have used a lot of really colourful bricks on the inside there, and my first thought was, I wonder if this is supposed to represent something in the actual console and the way it's built. The controller cable is significantly shorter. We'll allow on that one. It's a representation. You're not actually going to sit 2 meters away from your TV and play this. But if we look under here, so that's the back side of your original NES controller. If we take that wire out, I've already unscrewed it. But you don't have a lot of colour in there. You've just got the green, typical green circuit board with your button sensors on here. And then a bit of colouring on the wiring there. What's quite interesting is that they've actually marked the colours there. So, this would have been completed in a factory automatically, I would imagine. But no, they've still made sure that all of those colours are correct. So one thing that's quite interesting, taking all of this stuff apart, I don't know if you can see that very well in the webcam there that I'm using, but these are just plain Phillips head tiny screws. So taking all the casing off an original NES compared to something more modern like the PS4 Pro, which I recently reapplied thermal paste to, the NES just literally, you stick your screwdriver in there, take your screws out, and it all comes apart, and Bob's your uncle. What I did find quite nice in the build, and well, the build in general is full of these little features. So things like where the controller cable goes in on the Lego version there, and then they've constructed it with the bricks in a way that, if you can get some light on that, you can see there's actually like a tube, and then that links into two of these Technic bricks with the holes in to hold all of that in place like the real controller would be. And then as for the buttons underneath, there's not really anything special going on, just more colour. So the colours are actually used more like a guide for when you're building to help you follow the instructions and put things in the right place. The actual console itself, I'm just going to unplug these controllers and get them out of the way. So on the original NES, and you can see while I've been giving it a clean, the paint work and stuff has come off there, so we've got the yellow in and the original red's gone. But because I keep this, I'm not a major collector, I just like things from my childhood. So the front panel opens up quite easily, and that has actually got, if you can see just over here, a couple of minor screws holding these parts into the top of the casing there. And then we have a metal shield. Again, there were screws on these parts here, but I've taken them off already for the purpose of this video, just so I'm not wasting time unscrewing. So this is just a typical aluminium earthing plate, give it a bit of reinforcement above the gadget you see in there. So on the Lego version of the NES, what we've got is a flap that just clips onto hinges, so there's nothing to unscrew there like you would in the Real NES lid. Just quite easily comes off, and it's designed to be displayed as well. So what you find is that this roof section, for example, if you want to call it that, that actually comes off quite neatly as one whole piece and exposes the cartridge bit. Cartridge slot, we'll come into that in a second. And under this side there is a little secret for anyone that's planning on building it out there. I won't spoil it now. I've removed it from my version of the NES, so when I take this part off it won't be spoiled for you. But you can see we've then got the ventilator ridges here. So again, built-in sections, really clever build to put together, but it's actually ridiculously colourful. And this is the kind of thing that I was thinking when I started doing the build. I was like, I don't remember ever seeing this much colour inside a normal NES or anything of this age. But I wouldn't put it past Nintendo to do something fun like that, really. If we take off the rest of the lid carefully, so there you go, we've got the full lid section off now. And we can see inside to the cartridge port and what would be the circuit board underneath that. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is, first thing I noticed, should I say, where you've got your power and your aerial and everything else on the back there of your Lego NES. And all of that matches up perfectly. AV ports on the side there as well. And just in case anyone's wondering, there you go, AV ports on the side. You've even got the little spikes here for the power mount there. So again, not an electronics expert, but if you've ever seen inside a power supply, this one's still got its earthing case on. There will be the poles and everything else all wired up. The cartridge slot has been designed to actually stay down, and then it's a little bit fiddly, but it does pop back up again. So you do get a cartridge, a Lego cartridge with this. Everything again built to scale. So just like the original NES there, pops down and back up. So what I thought was quite interesting, this is where the build gets really clever. They've actually developed a small mechanism. I'll try and show you there. It's a bit difficult to see it on a webcam on the side, but there's a little sliding grey block there, and that's designed so that as you push down, there's a ramp underneath and it pushes it into this red clip, and then there's another smaller wedge piece that pushes it forward again to allow it to spring back up. And this is reminiscent of the original cartridge slot. So if I just pull this forward. There you go, it's a little fiddly, but this is your actual cartridge slot, so that's fixed in place. That doesn't go up and down with this spring-loaded mechanism. But what we have on the original NES, if you can see in there, there's actually a small pin in this section, and as you push it down and back up, I'll turn that upside down so we can see again. As it goes down, it pushes this pin into place into the wedge, but then there's another wedge in there that's designed so as you push it again, it actually pushes the pin out of the other side to release it. So I thought the way that LEGO have emulated that in the slot there is really quite clever. As for the rest of it, I suppose you could argue that the colours in here represent maybe the colour of the wiring that you've got going from your pad ports into the underside of the circuit board. And so just to finish off, let's lift this out and we'll flip it upside down. So again, you've got that metal earthing sheet which is now stuck on a cable. So these are the joypad connectors here. Again, nothing like if you do a PS4 teardown, there'll be little cables here, there and everywhere to take apart, but this is nice and easy. You've got the blue there, that's for your power buttons and your reset links in, so you've got a tiny board there just for these buttons that stay in. The LEGO NES doesn't have moving power or reset buttons, they're just fixed on there, but again, lovely attention to detail in the fonts and the colours and everything used. And so that's the top side as you're looking at the NES there, and flip it over we can see various chips and things on there. So I'm not an electronics expert. If anybody does really want to know, I do know a few electronics experts, be more than happy to get them to have a look at this and maybe do a bit of video analysis. What is quite interesting though is this port here. So that's an old NES expansion port, and if we just flip the case over very quickly, you can see that even on the European models, there's a little plastic port there, and then this is designed to snap out if you need it to. Where that would have sat in Japan, they did have various extensions that could plug into these ports. I'm not aware of anything legitimate in the UK or Europe that was ever released to make use of that, but it is there nonetheless. So there we go. That was a very quick, non-technical teardown and comparison of the LEGO NES and the original NES. As you can see, it's built to scale. It's not the same size, but they've done a really good job of attention to detail. From my point of view as an amateur LEGO builder, I found this a really good fun kit to build. So it's nice to see the colour in there. It's nice that they've included Easter eggs. As a Nintendo fan, I can tell that this has been built by other Nintendo fans. They've really paid close attention to the finest details and all the things that as a kid just made this a fun console to use. You know, having to push the cartridge slot down, everything, it seems a bit arbitrary now. And then of course there's a television set that comes with it, but if you've any interest in the LEGO NES at all, you'll be well aware that the television set that comes with it has a crank handle and a moving level. If you haven't seen that yet, then definitely go and check it out. And that's been it for this short video. Thank you very much for joining me, and please leave a comment below if you'd like to know anything else about the build, about the teardown, or if you just want to let me know if you think I should be doing more of this kind of stuff in future. LEGO do a lot of great models. They do stuff like a lot of the space models, International Space Station for example. I can't lay my hands on a real International Space Station, obviously, but I'm pretty sure there's schematics out there, so maybe we could do another side-by-side comparison looking at just how real that is in the future. Thanks for joining me.